Hi, my name is Philip Roberts, and this is my video game vlog for game design as cultural practice. For this vlog, we'll be looking at the Coming Out simulator. Visually, the game is very flat and somewhat simple. The color palette is muted with simple shapes. I believe the creator did this for two reasons. First, this was created by a one-person team, so for this to be feasible, it needed to be simple. Given how we'll find out how dark the story is and sad, I think the colors are meant to somewhat reflect that. It also reflects the somewhat simple interface of the game, which is meant to mirror a cell phone. The sonic design too is somewhat simple, and I think for this game is very appropriate in the way that it's approached. Background noises or music is very subtle and subdued. Otherwise, certain contextual sound effects will play based upon what's happening on the screen. Again, this is probably half due to expediency and keeping the game manageable, but this does help keep it focused and on point. Music can convey a lot of emotion, but at the same time, having silence where it's appropriate can give something the gravitas and seriousness that it needs. The Coming Out simulator is a serious, shall we say, game, and it deserves to be treated seriously. For the game's interaction design, again, this is a piece of interactive fiction, so it has more elements related to that genre than what I would typically call a game. The interface looks kind of like a cell phone, and you'll see either text bubbles or text messages between the stick figure characters interacted on the screen above. Below, you'll be able to pick through 1 to 3 different text options, which will advance the story based upon your decision. You play through by clicking these options until ultimately you reach a conclusion. Again, this is a piece of interactive fiction, so the strongest piece of this experience is focused on its narrative design. I should preface this by saying I'm not gay and I can't speak to the creator's experiences, but I will do my best to respect it while critiquing this experience. The narrative is told to you, the player, by the creator in a creative retelling of the events. I say this because it's implied, actually explicitly told, that the creator is lying. That is not that the experience that the creator went through is a lie, but rather some of the names and situations that happened aren't exactly the way that is being told to you, the player. On one hand, this is interesting because it leaves you to decide whether what is true and what isn't true and what might be exaggerated or not. Partly, I think this is done to save certain people from embarrassing details or others knowing about it, but this might also be done to avoid the author from making himself seem too much like his own hero. It's very easy when someone is the subject of a story to overemphasize and to really try to put yourself in the shoes of that person. And I don't think the creator wanted this to a certain degree. This is my reading into the Coming Out simulator, but I feel that the creator really wanted to show this as this is my experience, this is what I feel, this is what happened. It's one experience out of many, but this is what happened to me. The unreliable narrator, while both showing the creator's personality a little bit, forces the player to take a step back and think a little more critically, a little more objectively, without over-personalizing the actions within the gameplay. Moving on to the mechanics, I think this is somewhat emphasized as well. You can pick different options and get different responses, but to me, the way the dialogue tree felt was very narrow. That is, it would branch out, but this narrative would slowly close in on itself very quickly, into kind of the same experience. The game and the characters will remember what you've said, but as I've played through it a second time, this didn't matter too much, and that even though they were saying different things, ultimately the flow was very similar to me. Now, this is not a hard game. There is no fail state. There's really just only the experience. Again, I'm not gay, so I can't fully empathize, but it was, for at least the majority of the game, a very sad and emotional style game. Although at the end it was somewhat hopeful and had a little bit of a resolution, which was nice. I think the engagement that's to be found in this sort of experience is listening to someone's story and reading about it and experiencing it through this narrative. The response to secondary criticisms for this experience is probably going to be similar to my other recent vlogs, in that I would not personally define this as a game. Certainly Bogos would not, but also Salient and Zimmerman, in that there is no fail state and nebulous objectives. Whereas this piece of interactive fiction is more successful than, say, Choice Texas, is in that I do think the sounds, interactions, and the interface add a little bit more to it than a traditional codex would for this experience. The texting interface is again a digital interface and makes more sense in that context, but also the sounds and animations are much more visceral and perhaps feel a little more real, which helps bring this story alive, at least in my mind.